Well, hey, everybody. Good Sunday afternoon, morning, wherever you are. This is Barbara Talisman, Where's Babs? Welcome to No Retirement Regrets. I'm so glad you came to join us. And I want to introduce my guest today. Let me introduce you to Pam Krueger of Wealth Ramp. She is guiding people towards great financial wealth advisors in before retirement or in retirement. And I'm delighted we met. As you know, ARP did a profile on me, and she was sort of the last word on we are where we are. We can't live with regret. So what are we going to do to move forward in retirement? Well, Pam, welcome to Where's Babs? And let's talk about no retirement regrets. How are you? Wait, let me unmute you. Can you unmute your? You have to unmute yourself, hon. We can't hear you. All right. Well, you're figuring that out. I'm going to share some stats with folks. How's that? So you have to unmute yourself. So you guys, I wanted to share these stats because I wanted you to understand that women in retirement, many of you know I travel full time. I use house sitting. I leverage miles and credit cards. We're going to talk about a lot of things. But there are many of us in this age group, sort of the 50, 60 plus, who may not have planned as well as we may have wanted to, knew how to, or definitely what a financial advisor should tell you that you need in order to live well. And so the question is, how much is enough? So I wanted to share some of these statistics with you. 40% of retired women have only $100,000 or less in retirement savings, compared to 33% of men. That's one. Retirement income, we're living on less than half of what we were living on when we were working. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And then we also, one of them is that we took time off for caregiving. It could be time off for having a baby. It could be elder care that we were taking care of. But those are things that men don't typically do. But when we take these chunks of time off, it impacts our earning as well as our Social Security in the end. The average retirement savings between somebody 55 to 64 is $88,000 and change, and for men it's 136. And for a married couple, 423,000. So good for you if you're still married. As a solo nomad, and there are a lot of nomad couples. And whenever I read their stories, I said, yeah, it must be nice to have two of you. And then the question is, how much is enough? And so, you know, currently, in 2022, the average Social Security check was just over $1,600 for a woman and $2,000 for a man. Mm-hmm. And the last one, they call it the gray divorce, when we divorce at 50 plus. So your standard of living will decline by 45% for a woman post-divorce and only 21% for a man. So I wanted to share that as a way of no regrets. It is what it is. You can either take solace in the fact that there are others like us, or that you saved and done well and you're ready to retire. So I just wanted to share that with you. So Pam, let's get started. I want to let you know that Pam is CEO and founder of Wealth Ramp, as I mentioned, and they share information and how to find the right financial advisor. She also has a great podcast called friendstalkmoney.org, and you can find that online. So I think it's a great opportunity for you to connect with her. Pam, welcome. How are you?
Barbara, it's so great to meet you in person.
I'm so glad to meet you. Like at the end of the article, I said, oh, what a great way to end the article. It was wonderful.
I just love the fact that you reached out right at the, you read the last part of that article and you're like, we're going to talk.
Well, because I think, I talk to a lot of folks online and in person about having a lot of regret over where they are in life. And a lot of it comes from money. They don't think that they're living the way they thought they should be living. So yeah. I'm so glad we can have this conversation. So what we're going to talk about is that I'm going to offer 3 tips on traveling well for less or free. And Pam is going to offer 3 tips that if you're planning to retire or you're already retired, 3 things that you can do to continue living a good life. And again, everybody defines of what is enough. But I always say, if I can travel the way that I've been traveling for the last 4 years with Social Security and a low 6-figure retirement fund, so can anybody. And it all depends on how you want to live your lifestyle and what you choose to do. So Pam, I'm going to kick us off, if you don't mind, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. So one of my first things about travel when you're don't have millions of dollars in the bank is location. So, lots of people were talking about going to Paris. Well, you don't go to Paris during the Olympics. And in fact, I'm in San Diego now for probably the next 6 months, house sitting and pet sitting. The cat may join us. I'm kind of keeping her at bay, but you can't really keep a cat at bay. And to live in San Diego for the next 6 months would probably average me, if I had an apartment, about $4,000 a month. I don't have $4,000, but I have found amazing house and pet sits all over San Diego. I mean, like local San Diego. I like the cities. So I'm in either the city or surrounding suburbs. But that location is great during the summer, and I travel following the sun. So when you're looking at where you want to travel, you do it, in a way that where you want to go, and then find a way to go there cheaply. And I'm going to talk about the next 2 reasons that you can do that.
We travel following the sun. Okay, note to self. That right
well, you know what? I grew up in the Midwest, so I've done 50 years of penance in the winter. And so when I decided to start traveling full time, winter was not going to be involved unless I was interested. So there you go. Okay, so Pam, give somebody a tip, give us all a tip on what you could do now that you've retired, or to create a travel fund, or what can we do now?
There's a lot more than 3, but let's start with the premise that there are things that you can shift somewhat with the way you think and your attitude. That makes a huge difference. And then there are things you can actually do yourself with actions. And, the 3 things to focus on action wise, we could talk about the, other side of it as well. But, as far as like real actions to do, especially women who are, I think AARP also said, like 36% of women over 50 feel that they are, only 36% feel that they're really on track to be able to retire. And, you just went over the reasons. It's really clear. And it's so judgy. You feel like everybody's judging. And it's like, no, wait a second. I took time out to help my aging parents. I took time out I didn't have kids, but, others have kids.
But even in our age group, we weren't earning. Like now,
we don't earn the same.
Starting to get at parity, kind of. Exactly. And we learn to negotiate better. But back then,
right. And we're going to live 5 years longer. So do the math. Of course, we're going to feel like, oh my God, we're behind the 8 ball. The day get out of the morning, get up in the morning out of bed, I'm going to be behind the 8 ball. So here's some things that you can actually do is to, really start to think about if this is becoming your priority and it's becoming something that's keeping you up at night. I like to say, stress test the monsters under the bed. Really take a look at what's happening. How much do you have? Do you have debt? I don't care what it is. It's not judging. Take a look at it impartially and then sit down and then say, okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have, if I did a little bit of part-time work, if let's say you're already retired and you want to boost your income, let's say you want to downsize a little bit. Let's say it's that you want to do what Barbara's doing, which is take some time and do some traveling and do it in a really smart way where you can actually be, house sitting or pet sitting. And then maybe your place becomes an Airbnb. Whatever those things are, you want to be able to stress test them. Now, it does cost money if you're going to sit down with a financial planner. And if you are going to sit with a financial planner, which isn't stupid, you want to make sure that advisor is fee only and fiduciary. That's another story for another day, but there's a reason for it. And you want to make sure that you can afford the fee. But here's what I would do is I would sit down with somebody who's not you and not your daughter, not your son, no one you even know, who really looks
professional. Yeah. I think, that's great if you're planning. And even if you're in it, right? If you have limited income. I think one of the other things to think about when you're traveling, when you want to travel and you want to go farther with maybe less money, is the currency that you're going to be using. Because, the euro right now is on par with the US dollar. So you go to Europe, it's almost the same as living in the United States or traveling in the United States. But if you go over to Asia, or even up to Canada a little bit and down to South America, you'll find that you can travel much farther for much longer, and not in low rent or bad accommodations or unsafe accommodations. options. So my ex and I used to travel extensively to Europe, to Paris, especially when we were married. And the minute the euro came in, our dollar did not go as far. That was the end of it. And we started going over to Asia. So we were in Hong
Right.
Kong, we
Right.
did China, we did Vietnam. And so when you're travel planning and you have a small travel bucket, then you have to make it go as far as possible. And that's one of those tips. So where are you going and what is the currency?
Oh
And
my
it,
God, that's huge. And so
yeah,
many
and
people,
so that's why I say, you don't have to have millions in the bank in order to
yeah.
travel the way that I'm traveling. You just have to look at the travel hacks and be smart about it and think about it. So we did have a question here, Pam, before, and I think this is, I retired at 62, you guys, and I just thought I did the math on the Social Security, and I'm a carpe diem, leap and a net will appear kind of person. I know not everyone is, but I did the math from 62 to 70. And I am a big fan of a bus could hit me tomorrow. So I decided to take that. So the question that Cornelia asked is, should you retire at 62? And I think, Cornelia, you're asking, and take Social Security. I think that's the trigger. It isn't leave a job and then not do anything, but are you going to do that? So for me personally, the decision was yes, because I wanted to travel and that would give me income that I didn't have to, and getting rid of my home and my apartment and my stuff, purging, allowed me to make sure that Social Security went farther. I don't know, a short answer to that, but I think it's very, Pam, you would have a better, different answer, but a short answer from someone like you would be good. But I just think it's so personal for everybody.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now you're going to hear over and over again that the advice is try as hard as you can to put it off. And but if you're in that situation where putting it off doesn't make sense, you're no longer earning income, then of course, tap into it. But here's the thing that I was mentioning earlier, it kind of ties back to the stress testing. Whether you just to have fresh eyes to sit down and stress test all of your assumptions in your what if scenarios. So we all have what if scenarios. What if I did this? What if I did that instead? Stress test those so you can see the map and you can see the projections and you can look at your own assumptions and you can test the waters. You know what? It's going to make you feel so much more confident by doing that. And then the other tip I was going to say, Barbara, that's really going to help is to focus on prioritizing emergency savings, because the older we get, the more we age, the more comfortable we feel with a life jacket on, a life preserver. And, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to have too much money in cash. And obviously it's a personal decision, but I like, as I age, to have a bigger proportion of my savings in an emergency cash situation so that I can do what Barbara's doing. And I can take off and I can have that freedom. So don't lock yourself into things that don't allow you to grow that emergency fund. You'll feel better. It will just make you feel more comfortable.
So it's interesting, I don't know if you all are familiar with the Ethel Circle on Facebook, but it's a group formed by AARP for women 55 and above. And so we had a little gathering here in San Diego, and this woman, we were walking to our cars and she said, hey, she was fortunate. She had like 2 great government gigs. So she has 2 retirement funds and she kind of put one away, she said, for later. And she had a $60,000 plumbing bill that she had not expected. And she said, I was lying in bed. She's 74 now. She's 74. And she says, I was lying in bed, sort of worrying about what I had written the check to the plumber for and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, and then she says, and I have that fund for later. And she said, when's later? Later's now, but she had sort of this emergency fund and she could write that check, but she was like, oh, that was a lot of money. But then she realized she's 74. I mean, none of us are going to live forever, people. Carpe diem, right?
Yeah.
And on the health side, I have to tell you, on the travel side, again, talking with lots of solo nomads and other people who travel full-time like I am at my age, going over to Turkey for medical, going over to Penang, Malaysia for medical. There are lots of ways that you can get great medical care and preventive wellness medical care for a lot less in the United States, and they are ready for you. So, and for me, the 62 thing, Cornelia, I agree with you. It's a decision, and you're making a great decision to pay off your bills. Good for you. I am also debt-free, save my car, but that is an asset I rent out when I'm not using it. So it'll be paid off shortly, but it's the only bill I have. is that we use our money the way we want to. And I don't want to find myself in some medical emergency that sidelines me, or that I waited till 70 to collect Social Security and had a heart attack and died and was waiting all those years to do something.
Yeah.
This is not me. Everybody has to make
It
their own
doesn't make-
decisions.
Right. It's like people try to, or you read the advice that says, wait, because if you wait, you're going to get 8% more a year. Okay, all of that is true. These are just true facts. It doesn't mean it's advice. Big difference, because you might benefit so much more from having that right now.
And
Absolutely.
Victor's put in here the big question is life expectancy. You know, my saying, and I tell yes, and I tell everybody this. I said, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, or a plane went down, or I had some tragic accident, I'm good. I think I personally have enjoyed my life. I don't look back and say I woulda, shoulda, coulda. And so these years go moving forward, and we all have fewer years ahead than we had before.
Yeah.
That how do I want to live them? And I'll be honest with you, I feel great empathy for people in walkers and wheelchairs and crutches, and I see them when traveling, but that's not me. I want to be able to get up and walk in the morning and go out and explore. So we all have to make decisions that are good for us personally. And what I'm trying to share is that you can do it on any budget. But as Pam said, maybe you have to make adjustments. So I decided I didn't want to have an apartment. Why did I need an apartment if I was going to travel full time?
Right.
And
You know what your priorities are. And then Teresa's mentioning, about one of the biggest concerns for her, at say mid 60s is health insurance and so forth. Listen, here's what I have to say about mid 60s, because I'm there. Okay, that's me. So what I want to say about that is I look at my life and I say, I'm probably going to have another 30 years, because my mom lived to be, 95. So there's longevity in the family. And I say to myself, if I really wanted to stop working today and not work again, just do what I want to do, what I really want to do that. And I'm telling you, it's like, we think we want to stop everything at 65. And then so many people 4 or 5 years later want to get back into something, either because they want to earn more income or because they want to get back into something. So it's so young. So I just feel like working to 64 at least, and then letting Cobra kick in till you're at least 65, that makes sense, because we're living so much longer.
this was the big thing, the whole 65. When I told people I was quitting at 61 and I had 9 months to collect Social Security, but I had a retirement fund and I had an investment account at that point. I have traveled for 3 years and not touched the investment fund until this year, and or not touched the retirement fund. And the investment fund is gone after 3 years because I had a little bit too much fun in South America, but that's okay. I'm adjusting, but I would not regret any time I spent
Of
on
course
this.
not. That's life.
But I'm just saying, so you make those decisions, but people are like, you're not waiting till you're 65 for Medicare. Oh my God, that's another 4 years away. And for me, I just kind of look at it, and I ended up with, Obamacare, and on with some benefits, and I took, catastrophic, but I'm also out of the country like 6 to 9 months out of the year. So I'm paying for travel and medical insurance, so that if something happens overseas, I'm covered. And I'll get my ass back to the US if that's what I want. So you're sort of making decisions. I probably make decisions, planning travel 4 to 6 months in advance, give or take. And I'm looking at budget and where I want to go, and probably month to month in terms of health and how I'm taking, what I'm doing, seeing the dentist and having my annual physical and all of those things. But it's a matter of deciding. I think you're right. It's a matter of deciding your priorities. I've been a traveler all of my life.
Yeah, you are a no regrets girl. I mean, and so am I. And so am I. Not everybody's like that, though. So it's not like you're trying to say what I do is what you should do. What we're trying to say is we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. And we all want to find our groove in terms of like whether you downsize and you decide to sell your house and move to a smaller place. Listen, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've earned it by now. I've worked my ass, and I have earned the right to say, I don't want to move. I want to stay in this house. Or I am going to move because I want to, because it's
Right.
going to be better for me. I want to do at this point in my life, I want to put my own priorities, my family, of course, but I want to put everything ahead of work and all that and think about really what's driving me for the next 30 years. Because this is just a chapter. We're just turning pages and this is just another chapter.
Totally. The other thing, Cornelia also asked, should you sell your home and move into an apartment? That's another whole decision. There are a lot of couple nomads that I met our age, grandpas, grandmas, and the solos. And there are two things that we always say. One is to the kids, the last check is going to bounce, but the house is yours. So that's what they've left for the kids, right? And it's all out there. And the solo nomads have all told their friends, I've left enough for you to bury me, and then I'm done. That's all that's left. So the question on the house, Cornelia, I know people who rent out. They do, if they can, in their neighborhood and in their state, they do Airbnb or VRBO, or they do long or short-term rentals. So it depends on whether you want to manage that, or you would have to hire somebody. So the washing machine breaks, it's going to happen, and you're in Thailand. Okay, you can call Home Depot. I've been on a ship with a guy who's doing this in Laguna Niguel, but he's got a network back home, and he had the whole thing replaced within 24 hours. So it depends on how you want to manage your time, your life, your assets. And do you need an apartment? What kind of an apartment? There's a whole share economy going on where maybe you only need a room, where you keep a few things and then you're off doing whatever you want to do. So I think, Cornelia, it's a really personal decision, and you will find every color of the rainbow doing everything in their retirement today.
Yeah.
And I think, Pam, compared to like even 20 years ago when people were retired, golf, Barca Lounger, one trip a year, and saving the money for the kids. And now it's like, I can work
anywhere. A whole wide variety. So this is where, again, I go back to the stress testing of specific questions, because that's a what if question. What if I sold my house? What if I did this? What if I did that? It's going to help you feel better no matter what your economic situation is. You know what I mean by stress testing it? I'm saying actually look at, well, if I went down this road, what would it look like financially for me? What if I went down this road and took this fork? And I noticed that Nancy is making such a fantastic point. Yep. Thank you. We're not all in the same boat. We're in the same storm, right? And some are in rowboats, some are in lifeboats, some are in yachts. And that is all the more reason why what we're all looking for is some degree of freedom, no matter what it is, where we are economically. We want to be mentally comfortable that we're doing.
We want to sleep at night.
Creative, Barbara. You are so creative.
But that money will keep you up at night, right? That worry. So if you have these conversations, Nancy, Cornelia, Teresa, with somebody else, an objective observer who has some knowledge, to say, well, what if I sold my house? Should I get an apartment? Should I live with somebody else? Should I move in with my kids?
How long will my money last?
Right. Yeah. But also the question is, what do you want to do with the next 10 to 15 or 20 years? And then how are you going to get there? So Teresa, Nancy, I completely agree with you. But the deal is, I'm trying to inspire, Pam and I are both trying to inspire that you don't live with retirement regrets, because I hear from people all the time on my blog and on some Facebook groups, I can't leave my house because I have no money.
Yeah.
And, I'm just hoping that the Social Security, will let me go shopping. And we know inflation is crazy in the United States right now. The question is, so my answer is, can you take a drive to the national park? You just get it. And if you have a national park pass that lasts you a lifetime for $80, you won't even pay for that except for gas. So there's steps. I mean, I've kind of gone big and decided that's what I wanted, but I don't want people thinking I have nothing, I can do nothing. My life is just not where I thought it would be. I don't know that my life was where I thought it would be either, but.
Let me share one quick story. I'll make it as fast as I can. Okay. One of my very dear friends, who's about 15 years older than I am, she was in a position where she got fired in her mid-60s, and she was working at a furniture store, and she was head of sales, and she needed the money. And she has 4 kids. They've all gone through college, but she left herself with nothing because she was kind of gave her whole self to her family, and then she's kind of divorced, etc. So one day Sandy says, I need to get a little extra income because I want to travel and I want to do things and I want to live, and I don't want to just live on Social Security. So all of her friends, me being one of them, encouraged her and said, please take your design skills that you had at the furniture store. Get a few clients out of your friends. We're gonna find clients for you. Let me tell you something. She just turned 80. She's making more money now than she ever made in her life. And she's like, I want to go travel now. This is a success story for somebody who got fired in the mid 60s, really, like real close to the edge, didn't know what she was going to do, and just kind of went with, okay, if I get a few clients and I bring in a few extra bucks, and now it's grown. She doesn't even have the credentials. She doesn't have the design credentials. Doesn't matter. She's in demand now. So I'm saying that's a happy ending story, but the point is that she's one of my best friends. I saw her do this. It was incredible.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think it's about the choices that we make, right? And our mindset. I think the mindset is really important. So we're trying to give you guys some ideas of how you can get there. I'm going to give you 2 more travel tips on a limited budget. One is season. So lots of people want to go to Europe in the summer. And if you've also followed the European travel the last 2 summers, because everybody is definitely thinking COVID is less than it was, although it's coming back. And so being in Europe last summer was heck. I mean, it was just bad. And so you go in the fall. Go in the fall and the winter. It's beautiful. It's less expensive. Everything is cheaper. I followed the sun. So, I'm tending to go when it's lower season as well. And the one other thing I'm going to put out there that I've kind of gotten banged on a couple times on my blog is I use miles and collect miles. And I do it a lot through credit cards. I fly definitely on occasion, but I'm using these points earning credit cards. And I hear from seniors a lot, oh, I don't have a credit card. I paid cash for everything. And I agree with that. And it doesn't work if you don't pay that credit card off every month. But those miles add up and give me free accommodations and free flights and free upgrades and lots of other perks that allow my travel to cost me less in the end. So those are sort of, some travel budget things: location, currency, season, and then those miles earning credit cards. And it's in my blog, and many of you have read it and seen it, and I appreciate all the comments you've left. And so there's lots of ways to make your retirement what you want it to be, but you got to figure out if you want to travel, the tips and hacks that allow you to go either farther for longer, or someplace that you haven't been because you want to see it before we're done. Any other last tips and questions, you guys, in the comments? We don't want to keep you at Sunday morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And we just wanted to leave you with an uplifted opportunity to think about your retirement and your finances, either in your planning, good for you, you can plan, or if you're in retirement and some changes or some ideas or some thinking that you can do before you step away. Last word, Pam, anything that you want to
add? Nancy asked a really good question. Are there financial advisors that are affordable? Because that's the whole point. You're not talking about going to an advisor that has, you have $5 million. The answer is yes, Nancy, you can contact me directly. I have advisors who specialize in working exactly with this situation. No problem at all. So
Nancy, that's why when Pam, if you see the article, I'll stick it in here. Let me see here real quick. I'll stick this in the comments. Sorry, let me do this really quick. The article, Pam's comment is at the last end of the article that ARP did on me. And it was about my biggest retirement mistake because it wasn't a regret. And so you can take a look at that, but wealthramp.com is her company, and she matches you up.
And I'll talk to you directly. Just come to me directly from WealthRamp, and I'll contact you directly.
Yeah. So, and it's worth the conversation, especially if you're planning, and even if you're not, but it's good to do it. Any other comments? It's great to see some new people here and some of my followers and friends on Facebook and on YouTube and LinkedIn. So glad that you could join us. But we just wanted to share some of our experiences and our knowledge to make sure, no retirement regrets. I mean, we have lived, we have worked, we have helped communities and families, and we got to take care of ourselves. It's really, that's, that whole saying, if you don't take care of mama can't take care of anybody else. Well, now or never. So that you can have, the life that you deserve and the life that you want. And what happened. We can't go back. We just need to move forward.
You're my hero.
Oh my God, Pam, thank you so much for your attitude about this, because I know that we have often sat down with financial advisors and said, well, if you don't have millions of dollars, I have no interest in speaking with you. Right. It's like, right. So we got to make do. And inflation is not helping and recession is not helping. So we've got to be nimble and willing.
It is what it is. We got to deal with it.
That's right. And Mexico and Thailand and Turkey are great places if you decide that you just want to up and go. And many people are doing that. But if you're not, and you're going to stay in the United States and take some good trips or live in a good quality life, there are lots of ways to make that happen. And make sure you have a network. Keep that network in line. And I hope that you would consider Pam and I part of your network now. So reach out anytime. And thank you. We wish everybody a happy Sunday. Pam, have a great day. And everybody, thanks so much for coming along and joining us.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.